Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Haley and we are going over the gift of competence today within this 14th gene key, Radiating Prosperity. He titles this chapter, The Fire in the Belly. That kind of makes me think of digestion and maybe the second plexus. Second and third, really. Also makes me think of transmutation, right? Fire, burning something, decaying it so that it can be rebirthed. I always like to take a second to marinate on the title before I get into what he has to say, just to see what my initial intuit is. Start to flex that muscle of knowing. So he reminds us, which he already mentioned within the shadow frequency chapter, which are the last two videos if you haven't seen those, going over the shadow in the 14th gene key of compromise. He reminds us that genius emerges because it's latent potential within everyone. Once again, rooting from that genus, encapsulating all of humanity. And this genius emerges when you stop making compromises in life. Simple equation. Stop making compromises, genius emerges. Inverse also be true. Make compromises, genius stays locked inside the cabinet of your heart, waiting to be expressed. They are mutually exclusive. And they're on a sliding scale, right? You can think of it as the more compromise you make, the less genius being expressed. The less compromise you make, the more genius being expressed. It's a ratio. Okay, that's easy enough. We could close the book right there and just meditate on that. And there is the 14th gene key. But he did us the due diligence of writing lots about this, so I'll go over his contemplations. But I do think it's so interesting that within this first sentence, genius emerges when you stop making compromises in life, is really the entire equation, you could say. All the keys and secrets you need lie within that sentence. So first meditation of this video, I recommend meditating on that line. Genius emerges when you stop making compromises in life. But until then, let's go over Richard Rudd and his contemplations on this. He starts by defining the word competence, which is this 14th gift. He says, competence is the quality that accompanies a person who loves what they are doing. Once again, this implies the opposite. If I don't love what I'm doing, if I'm doing what I'm doing because it makes me money and that's the only reason, then I'm not competent. The quality that accompanies a person who loves what they are doing. So in this light, competence, as he describes it, could be seen as, once again, that enthusiasm that we talked about in the last two videos. That genuine joy that fuels the turbine, that generates the abundance, that feeds that energy right back to you, and you feed that energy right back to that hobby, task, or work. And then he verifies that here. Competence carries within it efficiency, enthusiasm, flair, and flexibility. And this is not something that can be taught, right? It's taught via experience. In order to acquire and embody competence, one has to start to put into action doing work they love. This naturally will download the frequency of competence into an individual and bring about with it efficiency. Someone who's competent is very efficient, they can do a lot in a little amount of time. Because if you love what you're doing, you're not expending your energy in ways that slow you down or drain you. It's very cost effective. So competence is energy efficient, energy saving, right? You're feeding your energy into something, and that very thing is feeding you back because you enjoy it. Which leads us to the next point. Competence also is enthusiastic, which he's hit the nail on the head many times now. You really want to do what you're doing when you're competent. Competence has flair. He'll provide us a definition of this later. But right off the bat, when I first read that, I thought of kind of like a spice to it, or something that makes you do a double take. Something that has flair to me means you're naturally drawn to it, kind of like a flame. It's just so kind of mesmerizing and unique and different. And finally, competence has flexibility, he says. The individual who is competent is able to more easily be flexible with their attention and their energy because they have more energy to expend, once again, because it's efficient, right? So all of these qualities kind of feed in and weave within each other. And these are the 4 keys to material success, he says. I mean, yeah, sounds about right to me. I don't see how efficiency, enthusiasm, flair, and flexibility couldn't possibly lead you to material success. He reiterates that it has flair because it's doing something in a manner that no one else can. And that naturally leads me to believe that this person is authentic. They're fully secure in who they are. Obviously, that's a never-ending journey, right? Because we're always evolving. But they're keeping up with that security. Keeping up with the presence of who they are in this moment. And this is leading them to do something highly fulfilling that no one else but them can do, because what they're doing is based on their own past life experience, their own unique hobbies and joys, and the amalgamation of all of these keys makes something completely new and having a flair to it. He throws us another definition. To be competent means to be able to think both logically and laterally whenever needed. You can switch spontaneously between creating and receiving. You can listen to the environment and respond to it, he says. Oh, I forgot he did this. He actually does mention the solar plexus area, which is interesting because that fire in the belly, first thing I thought of. And I remember I read these chapters, usually I read these chapters a few weeks before I make the videos. So all these notes, I'm on a chapter far ahead right now, but yep, I have it highlighted. Solar plexus area is the biophysical zone that dictates how centered you feel at any given moment. Okay, what is to feel centered? To feel centered is to feel grounded, to feel sturdy. I'm making choices deliberately. I know what I'm choosing. I have discernment, right, from that past 13th gene key. I'm aware of what serves me and I'm aware of what doesn't. To feel centered is to feel relaxed no matter what the environment's doing, even if there's a chaotic person screaming at me, or gosh, just earlier this pig fucked up the lawn over there. So even when the pig comes and fucks up the lawn, if I'm centered truly, I'll be able to hold my ground and still observe the chaos. I'm not spiritually bypassing the person that's yelling at me or the grass that got fucked up. I'm observing, but my processing is faster and stronger than my will to react immediately. I have pause, I have patience. And then he gives us his definition. To feel centered is to move and breathe from the belly. Think of a person in your life who you would say is stoic and centered. Okay, draw that person to mind. And next time you come across this person, observe how they are breathing. It's kind of a funny task, right? But truly, you'll find that someone who is stoic and centered does, like Richard Rudd says, move and breathe from the belly. Not this shallow chest breath. It's a slow inhale into the belly and a slow exhalation out of the belly. And this cadence within their breath translates to how they interact with their environment. Translates to centeredness. There's a lot of power in being able to regulate the breath. And if you who's watching this is familiar with any yoga or meditative practices, then you probably have already learned this before. The secret of the belly is about drawing rather than pushing. Right? You don't push in a breath. You draw it in slowly. And the exhale is natural if you're really centered. It's not this forceful breathing. It's a relaxed soaking in. And you let the exhale fall naturally. He gives the example, which at first I was like, yeah, it's kind of random, but actually I ended up having a dream about this passage. I'm rereading it, I remember now. But he gives us the example that in the Orient, the saw, which is a tool to cut wood, is pulled towards you rather than the Western style of pushing the saw. And it actually uses far less energy to pull, he points out, whether you're using a saw or a breath. And the only advantage, and probably the only advantage of the Western style of pushing the saw, is that the act of sawing, cutting the wood, actually goes by faster. So you achieve the goal faster. Go figure, the Western style is goal-oriented, whereas the Orient style is all about not how fast, but the quality. It's about quality over quantity. And this once again translates to the breath. It's about quality of breath, not quantity of breath. It's much better to take 5 slow, deep breaths over the course of 2 minutes, or I don't know, a minute and a half, than it is to take 20 shallow ones. And that should be pretty obvious as to why. Not only does it use far less energy and therefore come into one of those 4 qualities of competence, efficiency, but also now that extra energy can be used to contribute to your flare flexibility, and that creates more enthusiasm. They all feed each other and weave into each other once again. One more definition of competence. He says competence is in this sense about performing a task with complete precision and elegance in alignment with natural and harmonious rhythms. So competence is not about how many things, I was about to say how many pieces of wood you can saw, and then I just realized I'm literally looking at a bunch of wood. That's so funny. I swear I didn't observe that until right now. Okay, and I just have to share, this is a little off topic, but then it begs the question, was that always there? Or was it because I was speaking about it that it just popped up into existence? Anyways, back to this. Competence is not about how much wood you can acquire and saw quickly. It's about performing the task, cutting the wood, with complete precision, elegance in alignment with natural and harmonious rhythms. This means not overriding your capacity, your strength, your fire, your speed, working with the body instead of forcing it into movement. And actually, as I read this also, I think of Japan, because in Japan, they're all about mastery. They're all about doing things slowly, with intention, with precision. Like, no wonder everyone loves Japan, right? Everything's just so beautiful and clean and precise and well thought out, energy filled. You can sense the admiration and the effort, the slow presence that went into it. Competence, this 14th gift, is one of those gifts that's extremely contagious. Wait a second. So we learned in the last 2 videos that compromise is extremely contagious. And wait, now Richard Rudd, you're telling us that competence is also extremely contagious? Interesting. And it makes sense actually, right? Because compromise is the shadow or the seed that grows into the tree, the gift, that grows into the fruit, the city. It's all the same generational line, I guess you could say. So the entire seed, whether it's seed, a tree, or a fruit, has the same underlying current, which he reminds us is contagious. So we can also infer then that this citic state of bountiness, which we'll get to in the next video, is also contagious. Bounteousness, I cannot say this. Abundance is another word for this, is extremely contagious as well. It's a matter of which way this wheel of fortune is rolling. Is it rolling backward or is it rolling forward? But you can think of a wheel, right? Once it starts rolling down the hill, it only gains momentum. That's another way to say extremely contagious. So that's exciting. Competence, efficiency, enthusiasm, flair, and flexibility are contagious. And just like rolling the ball down the hill, the best way to start to build this momentum is to start to practice the art of efficiency, the art of enthusiasm, following your own joy, the art of flair, embracing your own authentic path and past to present yourself as you are now, seeing the gift in that no one else could possibly fulfill the role of being you, which is so cheesy, I know, but it's also so true, you have to admit. Embracing the flexibility that comes along with all this energy saving that you're doing. And this gets that ball rolling. This gets that contaminant of competence spreading like wildfire. So with this natural enthusiasm that flourishes within an individual, you also have this binding force that creates cohesion within groups, he says. And this is a superpower, to be the glue that binds a group so that you can have a creative endeavor together. This is a beautiful gift. And maybe quickly you could just contemplate whether it was a school project or maybe a work presentation that you needed to do within a group, or a soccer team. Think of a group setting where there was a goal in mind, whether it was to win the game, complete the project, or have the best presentation, or something else, right? And think of the person, and maybe it was you even, think of the person that was the glue that bound the group together. Who was that person that gathered morale, enthusiasm, joy, and their joy was so contagious it got everyone else excited and bonded everyone? And it was in that bonding that created more of a unit, less individuals, and therefore more energy going towards that same goal. And maybe your season did better, or your presentation went extremely well. That is a gift, to be able to bind, to be able to create cohesion within groups. And it stems from competence. the ability to rouse team spirit. And this is a necessary quality, he points out, in order to actually bring a vision from the mind into manifestation in the 3D. You need morale, because morale is another way to say energy. I mean, on the inverse of that, right? Who's ever been in a project where it's like no one's particularly excited about this science fair project that we have to do? Okay, no one wants to take charge and be like, who should do this? Who should do that? Like, literally no one cares. And you're all just like looking around like, so, like, how draining is that? And also, like, when things do move, they're just like, it's like pushing, right? Again, pushing this like heavy load. Going back to his analogy with the saw. Feels like you're dragging your feet. This is lack of competence, right? This would be the shadow of compromise. No one actually feels like being there or contributing towards this goal. This goal has been placed upon you all. It's not a stepping stone to take you where you actually want to go, or something that you're choosing with your own awareness. And this is what creates that energy drain and knocks you back into that shadow of compromise. And this makes it extremely hard to draw the manifestation into the world. Ooh, I love this line. He says, it's interesting to note that a competent team cannot contain members who compromise. The moment you have a member that compromises, once again, back to his initial statements, compromise is mutually exclusive to competence. So if you have a competent team, it implies there's no one compromising. The moment you introduce compromise, well, now you don't have a competent team. Or I should say, you could have a more competent team. It's not as black and white. It's on the sliding scale, the ratio. So when he says this statement, it's interesting to note that a competent team cannot contain members who compromise. He's talking about a team that is 100% competent, 100% enthusiastic, efficient, 100% flair, and 100% flexible. And this leads us to believe and infer that mutual enthusiasm, mutual joy, genuine want and desire to be there and contribute must be present for the team to be 100% competent. And if that ideal is present, then naturally it's so much easier to innovate new and exciting ideals within the team and whatever the team is striving to complete. These people have real flair. They're not afraid of doing things in their own unique way. Oof, there's a key in there. They are not afraid. And this is how they are able to have that flair. Fear squashes flair. And actually, that's simple, right, to reflect on. How many times have you been afraid to do something your way because it's not the right way, or, well, everyone else is doing it the way the teacher told them, or... And then, if you are scared enough, you listen to that fear and you end up just molding to what everyone else is doing, not going with your own intuitive, unique flair. Fear squashes flair. That can be like a tagline. So these people that are competent are not afraid. And I want to be very clear, this doesn't mean that fear doesn't arise, that voices in the head don't say, you can't do that, it's not supposed to be done like that. These thoughts and things still come up. It's just that the person who's competent is able to, instead of entangle and identify with these thoughts, separate, and as the seat of the observer, look at them and say, yeah, I see you. Thought that says I can't do this because everyone else does it a different way, but I'm over here observing, and I'm still choosing with my own discernment, once again the 13th gift, to follow my heart. So thanks for chiming in. You can stay as long as you'd like. I'm going to carry on with what my intuit says. And that's very important, right? The person who is competent has not transcended all thought, right? This isn't a acidic state. This is a gift frequency. There's still duality at play. The mind still chirps. They just have enough morale, enough enthusiasm, enough belief in their self to follow what's in here versus what's up here or out here. These people do not reject the advice of others. They're receptive. They're natural teachers of other, right? They're teaching by example, by being the example, embodying truth. And naturally, because they navigate the world in this authentic frequency, they are contagious. They imbue people with a sense of their own independence and confidence. They inspire this quality of competence to flower within those around them. And in gifting others the opportunity of competence, the gift of competence, they are giving, naturally they receive. This once again churns that turbine and generates abundance. It draws in the right support. People want to help this person because they're literally just being who they are. They're super flexible. They're super efficient, which means they're on time, they respect you, and they're enthusiastic. I'd want to help this person too. So he says they have the power to attract, draw on the right support, magnetize material wealth. And he throws this common cliche, wealth begets wealth. Once again, you can envision that wheel rolling down the hill, just naturally gaining momentum. He reminds us here that prosperity is an infectious energy field that grows exponentially as long as it is used in the service of empowerment. That's important. As long as it is used in the service of empowerment, as long as it's heart-based service to others. And I'll leave you guys with this last little bit. Competence is unafraid of success and power, right? It's not afraid, therefore implying it's loving. It radiates confidence and assuredness wherever it goes. Gifts that to others. And it's a force field that naturally creates abundance. This person loves what they are doing. It is a fearless openness to grapple with any task in a realistic and focused way. And perhaps that's my favorite definition of competence. It's a fearless openness. I'm not afraid. I see the fear thoughts arising and I'm choosing to hurdle over them. I'm open to more than just what my mind has to tell me. And I'm ready to grapple with anything in a realistic and focused way. So yes, that is the 14th gift of competence. Stay tuned to hear all about the contagiousness of bounteousness. I said it that time. Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in with me for this Gene Keys episode. I also just wanted to come on here and start promoting my one-to-one coaching that I offer to women and girls ages 16 to 35. If you followed me on Instagram for a while, you might be a little bit familiar with my story. I was a model in New York City for 5 years, and in that time frame, I did quite some damage. I developed a really severe eating disorder, body dysmorphia, chronic anxiety. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even go out to dinner without thinking about how much calories, how much I'd have to overwork out in order to compensate for what I was eating. All of those issues led to quite a depression and turned into PCOS, and I also lost my menstrual cycle for over 5 years. All of this amalgamation of issues led me to soon realize that something needed to change. I went through much work. Many people helped me to get to where I am now. And I'm so thrilled to say I'm living such a more abundant life, and I don't feel zapped and drained and fear of judgment anymore like I used to. I would love to offer what I've learned through my own embodied experience, the meditative techniques that have gravitated toward me, and the own verified games that I've made up and curated to help you walk home to more of you and who you really are, so that all of these things can stop draining your energy. You know, all the constant comparison to others and to your people on Instagram, all the over-analysis about working out and what you're eating or what you look like. All of these things are not what life's about, as cheesy as it sounds. And I would love to help you come into more unity with you if you struggle with any of these things and you're a woman or girl between the ages of 16 and 35. So feel free to reach out to me if one-on-one coaching sounds resonant. You can feel free to DM me through Instagram or contact me via email, both of which will be left below in the description box. So much love and aloha to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.